This is Joe Skipper, and you're listening to the MX Endurance Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the MX Endurance Podcast, where we look at everything that's been happening in the world of endurance sports. My name is Tim Ford, and I'm joined by my good friend, the sexy shepherdess, the penultimate legend, James Bale. Jimbo, how you going, mate?
Yeah, I'm well, mate. I'm well. It's I'm getting used to this. Spending my weekends watching Super League Triathlon, either on the TV or in person, and I don't want it to end. To be honest, mate, I'm at that point now. Where I'm just like, weekends are Super League. How are you, mate?
I am riding high on Super League too, because it is great. Last weekend's race, which we'll talk about during the show, was phenomenal. Like I actually wrote an article for Mana this week, basically saying, when did we forget that there was this incredible broadcast package already that is Super League Triathlon? Because man, it is so good, and the racing was fantastic. It's fantastic. So just good stuff. We've got 70.3 Worlds coming up this weekend. We've got a heap of stuff to talk about. I'm excited. It's podcast time. Before we get to that, James Bale, this podcast is the official podcast of MX Endurance, the world's premier endurance sports community, created by four-time world champion Chris McCormack. James, you've been part of MX for a bloody long time. What's something you like about MX Endurance?
I like how useful everyone is in the group, mate. Whereas when you've got a problem or you're going somewhere new, you can always put a shout out and someone helps you out. So I did that this week because I'm likely heading to Malibu next weekend to watch the final Super League race. So I put a post up on the platform saying, "Has anybody got any fucking idea about Malibu? Because I've never been there." And the
Sleep
the
on the
answers,
beach.
yeah, the answers are flooding in. So I'll put the core out on the podcast as well. If anybody's got any idea of where to stay in Malibu, hit me up.
James, I imagine that our listeners are pretty weird people, so I don't know if you want to be staying with the people that are they listen.
I'm not asking to stay with anybody. No, I'm just looking for advice as where to stay and where not to stay.
I love the thought that you're going to have a bunch of people be like, "Hey, man, I got a couch, I got a hammock, I got a single bed for the two of us." You are the sexiest voice in triathlon. You know, we know you've got the fans who are thirst for your voice. So maybe the fact that you're going to be in Malibu, you might have just doxed yourself.
The voice and the blazer. It's a winning combination. Yeah, hammock on the beach will do me.
I think that's Malibu's the surf place, isn't it? That's what it's renowned for. Just find a combi, hang your feet out the back. It's just I don't know. I've never been to Malibu.
Go for a really dirty little motel somewhere, get myself murdered.
They rent the room by the hour. You'll be fine. What could go wrong? James Bale, we have a bumper episode. We have Joe Skipper coming on this week to talk about Sub 7 and talk about 70.3 Worlds. We also had Macca, occasional podcast. He's on the show sometimes. People might have heard of him. He sat down with Vince Louis over the weekend in Munich to talk about 70.3 Worlds, and we're going to put that clip in too. But before we get to that, mate, the first piece of news this week is the announcement that Flora Duffy gets a public holiday in her name, and she is forever golden. I got this summary from Sarah Wasner-Flynn at triathlete.com, and it says, Flora Duffy continues to bask in the glow of being an Olympic gold medalist. On Friday, Bermuda declared October 18th Flora Duffy Day in recognition of her success as her country's first ever Olympic champion. And earlier this week, the 33-year-old shared that she'd received a custom bike from Specialized, her sponsor. The S-Works tarmac bike, dubbed Forever Golden, features golden outlines on the rim of the Rover wheels and a frame finished in what looks like white marble. While Duffy's bike is one of a kind, mere mortals can buy a similar steed for $14,000 US. Jimbo, Flora Duffy is a national hero in Bermuda, and she now has her own public holiday. How good is that?
Yeah, man. Well, as soon as that bike was released, I sent you a picture of it, didn't I? Saying, "Fuck, I want one of these."
A few people did actually.
That marble effect finish. I was well up for that. In fact, I'd like it if it was actually just made out of marble and bloody heavy. Heavy equals expensive, but not for bikes. But yeah, I mean, having your own public holiday. I mean, well done. That's pretty cool. When she's old and got grandkids and the future is stretched on into the distance, having that Flora Duffy Day will be quite the tale to tell.
I think Flora Duffy Day should be the day that everybody in Bermuda has to buy her a drink too. Like that's the day that Flora Duffy just doesn't pay for drinks at the pub, because it's like you all could have been at work today. You all could have been at work today, but if it wasn't for me winning that gold medal. I mean, it's like Chris when Macca won Kona in 2010, they put him on a Wheaties box, and that was a big deal. I think this is a bigger deal, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, what are they going to do when she wins her second one in Paris? Is it going to become a double holiday? Is there going to be a further Flora Duffy 2, the return day? Who knows?
Well, I think they'll put her on the currency then, won't they? They'll
Why
take the
not?
Queen off because Bermuda's part of the Commonwealth. I think I have actually got no idea. I've just made a huge swing. They'll take the Queen off and they'll put Flora Duffy's head on the back of their $5 note. I don't even know if they use pounds or I don't know the currency of Bermuda. Could be anything. I don't know. They'll call them Flora Duffy's. That could be
I mean,
the
it's a
currency.
big call. It's a big precedent to set. It's a big precedent to set because all they need is a few more, and the next thing you know, everyone's getting a day off.
I love the thought that suddenly everyone at Bermuda goes and tries to become an Olympian, and they figure that if they win 365 gold medals,
No one
nobody has
works.
to work a day.
No one works.
Ever.
That's it. Just a year off.
Hey, motivation. Maybe that's a new rule we should have in Australia. No, Australia did pretty well at the Olympics. Maybe that's an Australian triathlon thing. If an Australian triathlete wins a gold medal, we'll have a public holiday. That might motivate us to do a little bit better than we did in Tokyo.
Well, you're never going to have a public holiday then, are you? Are you? Ever?
You guys would have a few. You've done pretty well at the last few Olympic Games. Last 3 Olympic Games, GB has won at least 1 gold medal.
Yeah.
Maybe at least 1. Yeah, you've had Alistair Brownlee, and now the Team GB.
Well, the mixed team relay counts as 4, doesn't it? Doesn't that count as 4 gold medals?
So does that then mean you've won? Your average is like 1 per games since it was introduced in 2000? Almost. That would be.
Yeah.
4, 6. In fact, more than. I don't know. Maths is not mine.
1.3.
More than Australia. We have 1.
1.333.
Should have had 2. Look, speaking of awards, James, the next piece of news comes from Super League Triathlon. That is the fact that Super League Triathlon win at prestigious sport industry awards. Super League has won the Cutting Edge Award for the Arena Games at the Sports Industry Awards. Sports Industry Awards are now the most prestigious in Europe and the industry's biggest night of the year. It was attended by 1,700 high-profile guests from the British and international sport industry, including business leaders, celebrities, sporting legends, and media. I assume you were invited to this, James, as you are all of those things?
Yeah, well, of course. I was probably the most prominent VIP at every table.
In your blazer.
I just had to rotate around.
In that blue blazer.
In that blue blazer.
The Cutting Edge Award in association with PT Sports Suite is described as one for the game changers, those who've gone beyond themselves, broken new boundaries, thought differently, or brought in new ideas or technology. Last year's winner was the Ineos 159 Challenge, which saw Eliud Kipchoge break the 2-hour marathon mark. Michael Dools, the CEO of Super League, said, "I'm very proud and excited to have won the Cutting Edge Award at the Sports Industry Awards. These awards recognise the very best in sporting world, and for Super League to have put triathlon in this illustrious company underlines the innovation and growth we're driving in the sport. It is especially exciting to have won it in times of a pandemic, when as a company and a team, we committed to push forward and launch a cutting-edge event like the Arena Games in the face of adversity." Mate, I think this is an absolutely well-deserved award. I thought the Arena Games were such a great way to pivot during the pandemic. And I think Super League Triathlon, I've said this at the start, I'll say it a lot, has done so much for sport, for triathlon especially, that it's good to see them being recognised for it. What do you think?
Yeah, totally. I mean, during the pandemic, when everyone was on lockdown, there must have been a sense of crisis and a sense of panic in every sporting series and every sporting company that was trying to find a way to navigate their way through that time. But Super League Triathlon really did step up and do it in a way that didn't just see them survive, but actually saw them thrive and add something beneficial and really quite exciting to the triathlon landscape. And the Arena Games, it was another moment where Super League said they were going to do something and my brain went, oh, is that going to be any good? And then I watched it and was like, yeah, that's pretty fucking good. I like that. I mean, it was exciting. It was entertaining. It was gripping. The racing was good. The racing was dynamic and it looked like it was bloody hard work as well, which is what you want to see when you're watching some of the best athletes in the world race. And well-deserved award and very much cutting edge, I'd say.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I said this last year when it was happening, and I've said it a lot since. I can't wait till we see the Arena Games happen in non-pandemic times when you can actually have a crowd around it in a really tight, small environment. I was watching the Singapore Super League race today, the grand final they had in 2019, because I'd been at that race live. I've never actually watched the broadcast. So I was watching the broadcast today. And yeah, I'd forgot, Super League does such a good job of keeping the race course so tight and close and seeing the crowds around transition that were honestly 15 deep. I thought, man, imagine having the Arena Games where the athletes are never more than really 50 meters away from you. It would be really exciting having their avatars up on the big screen. It would be great. So
yeah,
it's a great thing it's going to stay. So
a swimming pool in the middle of a velodrome, with some static, with some running machines. How cool would that be?
That could be cool.
You'd raise the roof. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think you look at track cycling, how exciting that is, or even just swimming races and the atmosphere that's created in those environments. I think it would be great and a good an opportunity. I think for those athletes to just shine on a different platform. So I'm congratulations Super League. I think you're absolutely well deserved, and hopefully we see more of it. Now we turn to some races, James Bale. And there's a few of the weekend. The first one that we're going to talk about was Ironman 70.3 Nice, in which we saw Casper Stornes and Nicholas Spirig reign supreme. Got this article or this summary from Try 24/7 by John Levinson. Norway's Casper Stornes stormed to victory at Ironman 70.3 Nice on Sunday, while ageless Nicholas Spirig won the women's race. Stornes started a clear favourite here, with many of the world's best middle distance athletes already holed up in St. George, Utah, and preparing for their biggest race of 2021. He delivered a terrific performance to win unchallenged. It was the first Ironman 70.3 title for the athlete most closely associated with World Triathlon Championship Series, but is highly unlikely to be his last. Spirig, meanwhile, shows zero signs of slowing at the age of 39, and she was peerless in a classy display to which her rivals had no answer on the Col d'Azur. As with Stornes, she delivered perfectly on her pre-race favourite status. Now the men's race. Casper exited the water just 10 seconds behind Switzerland's Sven Oliver Thalmann, and he would quickly take over the front once they were onto two wheels. Stornes was flying, and he built a lead of more than 4 minutes from the Frenchman William Menenson, who was fourth last weekend in Switzerland, by the time he got off the bike in T2. Just as with training partner Gustav Eden at the World Championship race there in 2019. Casper chose to use his road bike on the challenging terrain of the Col de Vence. If the Norwegian had been impressive on the bike, he was even more stellar once he had his feet back on the ground for the run. He produced a blistering 1:06:03 half marathon to come home and show some style. Frenchman Dylan Mangien came through on the run to claim second spot, almost 6 minutes behind, while Britain's Adam Bowden passed Menenson in the closing stages to take a fine third thanks to a cracking 1:06:17 run. Man, oh man, a 1:06 half after that course is flying.
Yeah, Casper Stornes has come to the party, hasn't he? And really stepped up to the 70.3 distance in style. It is scary staring down the barrel of what these Norwegian athletes are bringing to the table at the moment. Because, you see Christian, you see what he's achieving, you see what Gustav is achieving, and then you see Casper Stornes coming up behind and putting in that extra layer. Mate, we could be seeing a period of dominance like never before.
I'm just happy that it's
kind of starting to see that, but we could. It could go further than this. We've discussed it before.
Yeah. I also saw in some comments that Casper made, he was talking about the Frankfurt race where he DNF'd, and he was saying that he's sure the only reason that he didn't win that race was because he messed up his nutrition. Yeah. I love it. And I know that the people listening are going to go, those bloody Norwegians don't respect the distance. This is outrageous. And I just love it. I'm sitting here going, this is the best shit. I love that we have these three boys just don't give a fuck. They're like, what are you saying? We can't do this? Fuck you. We're going to show you that we can. I love it. I love it so much. And the fact that, like I said, winning
70.3 Nice is if that's not respecting the distance, then I don't know what is.
Yeah, mate, it's incredible. Incredible running. And again, Adam Bowden too. We've heard, I think Tim Hemming, when he was on the show, was talking about how good a runner Adam Bowden is, and clearly is. 1:06, for example, that's what Jan Frodeno ran in that 2018 70.3 World Championship race that we all talk about, or I talk about so much. So absolutely flying. I can't wait. Yeah, it's just such an exciting future. And we then can't turn away from Nicholas Spirig. So in the women's race, Spirig was first out of the water in a 27:08 swim, which gave her a 22-second lead over Britain's India Lee. Bad news for the rest of the field was that the bike came next. Nicola predictably then poured on the power on two wheels, producing a 2:44:38 split to build a lead of just under 3 minutes to Germany's Lena Berlinger, as she did in Gran Canaria and Walshy. It was just a road bike two for the London 2012 gold medal. So she rode a road bike. The run was a similar story as Spirig padded her lead further to come home more than 3 minutes in front of Bellinger in second. So in the women's race, it was Nicholas Spirig in 4:36:54. In second place, Lena Berlinger, 4:40:20. And in third place, India Lee, 4:41:17. In the men's race, Casper Stornes, 4 hours, 25 seconds. Second place, Dylan Mangien, 4:07:29. Adam Bowden, 4:07:48. Now, James, those times are not as quick as we're used to, because that that course has a big fuck off hill in the middle of it. It is a very, very, very tough course.
They say it was a road bike for the London 212 gold medalist. Now, that's not surprising at Nice. You look what Gustav did when he won the 70.3 Worlds. He was on a road bike. Everybody was criticizing him for it, and he went on and had a stormer of a race. And it doesn't surprise me that an athlete like Nicola Spirig would choose a road bike on that course because, she doesn't just sit on a TT bike. She's not your 70.3 Ironman athlete who's used to just sitting on a TT bike in a TT position and putting out power. She's an adaptable and dynamic racer who races across the short distance as well, and has that kind of ability on a road bike to bounce up that hill and then put in a performance like she did. I mean, she's on that course. A 2:44:38 is a powerful ride.
Certainly is. I want to talk about Nicola Sperry's bike a little bit, just because we know that Nicola is one of the 4 athletes who are going to be in the sub 7, sub 8 next year. What do you think? Do you see Nicola start? Again, she might not even want to do the ride on a TT bike, but I look at this and I am kind of a bit like, are we going to see her make the shift across? Are we going to see her vanish for the next 6 months? I don't know. Like, how do you see? At some point, do you think she's going to maybe start to commit to that TT bike, or I guess it's kind of like we're in a bit of a limbo at the moment where we don't really know what's. I mean, with the exception of sub 8 for the women, I don't really know what's next for Nicola Spirig. I don't know. Is she going to do that and retire? Is she going to commit to long course? I assume she's not going to go to another Olympics. I don't know. What do you think?
I think we will see her to the sub 8 challenge on a road bike. I think because of the fact that there are paces on the bike. My opinion is coming off the back of a conversation we had with Adam Hansen, where he was saying in terms of keeping yourself comfortable for the run and putting yourself into best position as possible to be able to do that run as quickly as you can, your best option may be sitting fourth wheel in a pack of riders that are rotating who are all on TT bikes while you're on a road bike, keeping yourself comfortable, staying out the wind and just putting out those watts and staying at that speed so you can maintain what you need to maintain and then get off the bike without having crippled your hip flexors.
I got a bit of a sneak peek of the course today. I'm not spoiling anything. I'm not going to give anything away, but it is going to be fast, like incredibly fast. So it's going to be. I can't wait for it. I'm so excited for it. But talk about exciting racing, James Bale. We saw some over the weekend in Munich at Super League Triathlon Munich, the second of their championship series race. There's 4 in 4 weeks. We're about to have the third one this week, but let's look to Munich, mate. Now, you got this summary. Do you want to go through the summary? Do you want to have a bit of a chat about it? How do you want to attack this? We say this every week. We should probably discuss it before we hit record. That would be a good thing to
rather than planning on the fly. I mean, let's have a chat through it, because obviously this was as different to the race that they had in London. They had the equalizer starts off with a time trial bike, so you had all the athletes kicking off, setting a time on a bike course, and then 2.4 kilometer bike course, and then doing their triathlon swim bike run with those time gaps that were set on the bike course. So you had a bit of a breaking up of the field to begin with. And on the women's side, it was a bit of a domination by the athlete. By the athlete that we saw winning in London. Now, Jess Learmonth is. I saw her
a beast.
I saw her put a post on Instagram yesterday or this morning that said, "I thought I was too old and too slow for Super League Triathlon." Now, Jess, I mean, that turns out to not be the case, doesn't it?
At all.
I mean, she put in the. She put in a very fast bike split to be the third athlete off with the triathlon, behind France's Emily Morier and the Netherlands' Maya Kingma. And then it was Jess Learmonth. And then Jess just showed her class on the swim when the triathlon started, took to the front of the race and never looked back. Now, the interesting thing for me was that on that swim, bike, run, her second swim was faster than her first swim.
Yeah, I heard that.
She absolutely put some serious time into the field on that second swim, because on the run of the first swing bike run, the field had kind of pulled her back to within within catchable distance. It had gone from 16 seconds to 9 seconds or something like that. And you were thinking, well, there's a chance that she stays ahead on the swim, and then they maintain it on the bike, and it comes down to an all out run for the end. But no, she distanced them in the second swim, distanced them on the second bike, and then used her short shoot on the final run to really put the nail in the coffin.
There's a few things about this race that I particularly enjoyed, and I think it's the first time in a while we've seen Super League return to like a quite tough course. There was a very good little hill on the run as well as the bike. There was a lot of cobblestones. There were a lot of really hard dead turns, and there was this god awful hilly ramp thing up and down out of the swim. Like this is for me one of my favorite elements about Super Leagues when they make the courses not just technical but physically tough. Again, I don't know why. Because I hear Jess say that, and I'm kind of like, I would have thought in a race like this that maybe the runners would have run her through, because in my head, Jess Limont is a great swim biker and sort of hangs on for the run. And then she does this, and I'm like, apparently I know nothing about triathlon, because Jess absolutely crushed it. It was good to see Beth Potter get back onto the podium. She finished third, I think. It was Georgia Taylor Brown second, Beth Potter third, I think. Is that right? Am I making stuff up?
Yeah. Sorry, no. Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
apologies. Yeah, it was Learmonth, Taylor Brown, Potter.
I was really expecting to see. I really thought when I saw Beth Potter was in the hunt, I expected to see Beth Potter actually probably run Jess down, just because we know how great a runner Beth is, and then the fact that Georgia Taylor Brown, who was with Beth, pulled away from her as well. It just didn't really go according to plan. But mate, Jess was so far ahead that she didn't even need to take the short shoot. I think she only took it because she just didn't want to run the extra bit of distance. Like, it was a domination. And it's funny, I saw on Chris posted about this on social media this week, and there's so many comments I'm seeing about people saying that they don't like the short shoot. Like, it's not triathlon. Rah, this isn't. Fuck off. The short shoot, the jeopardy that it creates during the race, the fact that we're seeing people who are going for that short shoot at the start sometimes get eliminated after the hunt, or then have the ability, like we'll see in the men's race, that it actually is a really critical element. I think I've discussed this with you, or maybe with our friend Matt, my physio, Pure Performance Physio, bit of a plug for Sweeney, is that when you take away the short shoot and it comes down to a sprint finish like we would have seen in the men's race, you have this whole race that is a bit of a whatever, and then you get like 10 seconds of excitement, the sprint finish, which is great. A sprint finish is fantastic. But by having the short shoot, which eliminates the need for a sprint finish, you have the entire race has this narrative of drama throughout it, because it's, I got to get the short shoot. When are you going to take the short shoot? The implication that has for it, I think it just gives the actual race more than the final 10 seconds being what matters. And that's what I guess we saw, well, more so in the men's race. But an element of that was because Jess committed from the get-go. She went, I'm getting that short shoot because I don't want to have to worry about that later. And it just never went away from there.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, you talk about Beth Potter, and you're saying you see her in the pack and she might run through the field. And yes, if it was a run race, very likely if that was happening. But this is a triathlon. It's not a normal triathlon. It's a triathlon with a time trial, a 2.4 kilometer time trial just before they start a swim, bike, run. And an athlete like, Jess Learmonth will put the power on the swim, put the power on the bike. And then, I mean, she wasn't the fastest runner on course, but she had enough. And she'd also won that short shoot, which gave her a little bit extra. Now, Georgia Taylor Brown is a class act of a triathlete.
Yeah, she's all three. She's
balanced. When Beth Potter won the Arena Games and everybody jumped on the Beth Potter train that should be going to the Olympics, I think there was one man holding strong saying, "This is not a good decision."
2 men. Come on, mate. I was similar.
Well, I don't know, man. I think you were a bit of a fanboy at the time, weren't you?
I was impressed. I wasn't ready to send it to the Olympics, though.
No, and I think both of us, to be honest, said, "Look, come on, one race does not an Olympic athlete make." And everybody just calmed down a minute. British Triathlon have put their faith in these athletes, and I think
that worked pretty well.
That worked pretty well, yeah. And yeah, so it's a triathlon, and it's a crazy type of triathlon. So watching Jess Learmonth win like that, mate, she's a champion. I talk to Jess relatively frequently, and I've just started calling her champ now as opposed to Jess. It just suits her better.
It's funny. We said this a lot about Katie Zafira as being that real strength-based athlete that we think is going to go very, very well when she steps up at long distance. And I'm starting to think the same thing about Jess Learmonth. She's such a strength-based athlete. Like, she looks so strong, and I'm very excited about seeing her when she does step up and has that killer swim and killer bike. What she's going to like. I know that you hear the people who think it's not necessarily that one doesn't transfer the other, but I love the thought of seeing athletes like Katie Zafiras and Jess Learmonth and Flora Duffy starting to do some 70.3 racing. I think that's a really exciting prospect. And again, talking about Beth Potter, I can't wait to see her step up to 70.32 with that run. It's going to be really interesting.
And Jess Learmonth's post-race interview as well was one for the ages.
They're all good, man. She's so fantastic. I am a huge fan. Like, that's almost why you're sitting there hoping that she wins just for the post-race interview, because it's so good. So then we got the men's race.
Hang on, wait, hold, Tim Ford.
Okay.
The podium on the women's race was Learmonth, Taylor Brown, Potter on the day, leaving the overall standings as Jess Learmonth in number 1 position with 30 points, Georgia Taylor Brown in second with 28, Katie Zaviras in third with 24, Beth Potter in fourth with 22, all the way down to Maya King-Martin 10th with 11.
Boom. Men's race.
There you go, move on.
Men's race, James Bale. Same. We had the exact same format where the men took off for the relay. Sorry, not the relay. The time trial. There's a bit more action in the men's time trial because I saw a few people who took a few of the turns a little bit spicy and thought they came close to going down, and then it turned into the triathlon. And it was good to see Vince Louis back. I think the thing I want to sort of focus on is just how good that last triathlon was with Vince Louis and Johnny Brownlee going shoulder to shoulder. As I said, knowing that Vince had the short shoot, knowing what Johnny would have to do to eliminate the advantage of the short shoot. And then the fact that you had that incredible moment where as they approached it, you saw them shake hands and then Vince go and win the race. It was awesome. It was such a good,
let's take it back to the time trial for a second, because there were some surprises in that time trial. You know, I was, as a cycling aficionado, second biggest on the podcast.
Yeah, of course.
I was fully expecting to see the powerhouses at the end, Vince Louis, Hayden Wilde, even a bit of Johnny Brownlee, populating that top of the start list for the TT. To see Vince and Hayden so far down on that TT really surprised me. So much so that I was wondering if there was a headwind that had suddenly, started to play a part, or if it started to get a bit moist in the air and there was some moisture on the ground, maybe. Leaving them to take the corners a bit less, because Hayden and Vince looked like they were traveling. Now, we saw a different order than we were expecting, but we still saw Vince Louis show some real class on the swim his way through the field and take that short shoot from the first swim. And that was fantastic. I mean, the man is a class act in the water.
Yeah.
To be able to just elbow his way to the front, take control, get the short shoot. And that short shoot, ultimately, and him getting that at the very start of the race, gave him the ability and the confidence to just run shoulder to shoulder with Johnny Brownlee at the end of the race and know that he didn't really have to go to the well to win the sprint at the end, and that he could just shake Johnny's hand and say, cheerio, thanks for the run. Now, the commentators were saying, Johnny's going to attack in a minute. He knows he's got to attack. And I was watching it going, nah, he's on the rivet. He hasn't got an attack in him, and he didn't have an attack in him, but it was a good race to the end.
Yeah, again, I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was probably going to play out a little bit different. Just Martin Van Riel really looked like he was on one. I thought he was like, he's here for business today. But again, like I said, you look at the impact that the course had. We saw Hayden Wilde take a tumble on the way back down to the water, because it was not a very pleasant looking little hill when they're trying to absolutely motor down as fast as they can. And the fact that every time those boys hit the hill, you could see that the ones who wanted to attack versus the ones who were struggling, Martin Van Riel would start to drop off a little bit, and then you'd see somebody like Hayden who would sort of surge to the front a little bit. Like, I love the impact that those elements of the course can have on a race, and it's something I think we sort of missed for a while. So it was great to see that introduced again.
Yeah, you could see that the difference between when you've got Vince Louis and Hayden Wilde starting as far down the field as they did after that TT. The difference between the two athletes today was shown on course within that first swim, because Vince Louis was able to swim his way to the front and take control of the race. Hayden Wilde hasn't quite got the swim of Vince. We've got to say that. And he therefore couldn't swim his way to the front, couldn't take control of the race, and was on the back foot from the start because he was scrabbling to make his way through the field. Hence, we saw, when you're on the rivet and you're going a little bit past where you want to be able to get to the front, you fall over. And that's what we saw from him.
Talking about the short shoot, just based on what you were just saying then about the fact that Vince had the confidence and the fact that Johnny, had to attack and maybe he couldn't or whatever. Do you think that, as I've said, I think the short shoot's actually a really good thing for making it more exciting. For the athletes, do you think that there's this element of, well, I haven't got the short shoot, what's the point in trying? Like, do you think is it such an advantage that it almost makes it a foregone conclusion? Like I don't know. What do you
I
think?
was talking to a long course pro yesterday on the phone who I won't name here because I think we might talk about it later on in the podcast. But they were saying that they think the swim should be a little bit shorter to negate the impact the swim can have over the race. For example, Jess Learmonth getting so far ahead with a short shoot in hand. And they were saying that maybe the rest of the field sees that distance, sees that she's got a short shoot, and kind of closes it down to a race for second, as opposed to putting it all out on the line to possibly get the victory or finish fifth. Now, I don't know, but I liked Vince's post-race interview when he said that it was the thought was in his head to just not take the short shoot and have a fair sprint with
Imagine
Johnny.
that.
Now, how class would that have been? I'd have
Oh,
loved that.
man.
I'd have just been like,
Yeah.
yeah, man, that he would have won so many fans in that moment because it would have been like, I didn't need the short shoot. I just fancied
Didn't need
a race.
the short shoot. Yeah. Yeah, speaking about Vince, we're going to drop in an interview, as I said at the start, a short chat that Chris and Vince had about 7.3 Worlds this weekend. But there's a very interesting little tidbit that came out during that chat they had, and it's the fact that Vince is specifically targeting Bahrain 70.3 at the end of this year against Christian. He basically wants to go up and line up against Christian to see how good he is at 70.3. And hearing that, I was just like, hell yes. We saw Vince try at Challenge Daytona last year, and he got that penalty, which means, and if, again, you take it out, he would have finished very close to the good stuff. But Vince, to me, again, is an athlete that I'm excited about seeing him race 70.3. And I've always heard that he sort of isn't interested in stepping up in distance that much. But hearing this, the fact that he's like fully committed to Bahrain 70.3, and again, maybe Alistair Brownlee could be there too, and have, two Olympic champions and Vince Louis going hell for leather at that distance on the fastest course in the world, got me so excited about 70.3 Bahrain later this year. So
Yeah,
just
yeah.
a little,
we are going to try to be there, aren't we? But we'll see how
Some
the
of us
cards
it's
fall
easier.
on that one. We'll
Some
see
of us
how the
it's easier.
card. Well, yeah, but still, life.
let's-
Traveling's not easy. Anyway, before you move on, you keep trying to move us
No,
on.
I was trying to line you up.
Oh, were
Just
you?
trying to line you
Okay.
up, yeah.
Well, the men's race on the day finished with Vince Louis in first place, Johnny Brownlee in second, and Alex Yee in third, with Hayden Wild almost making the podium in fourth place, despite starting relatively far down on the bike, leaving the overall standings with Vincent Louis in first place in the championship with 29 points, Hayden Wild in second with 27 points, Johnny Brownlee in third with 27 points, Alex Yee in fourth with 24, all the way down to Kenji Nina in 10th place.
Let's stay on the Super League bandwagon quickly, and let's talk about Jersey. This is the most frequently run Super League triathlon race that we've seen. Jersey is a staple on the Super League calendar these days, and this weekend they're heading to Jersey. Tell me about it.
Yeah, man, the Super League Roadshow is heading to its home, really. This is Hamilton Island was the first Super League race we ever saw, but Jersey is where Super League really did make its home. And it's returning to the Elizabeth Marina for a fourth time as the world's best triathletes battle it out on the fastest, most exciting and brutal racing event on the planet. So the race format will be the Enduro. It's considered the most brutal format of all, requiring endurance and tactics. The Enduro is a non-stop burst of 9 back-to-back triathlon disciplines without any breaks. So it's basically swim, bike, run, swim, bike, run, swim, bike, run. Now, sounds tough, doesn't it? To be honest,
It does.
The women's enduro race starts at 11:30 local time in Jersey on Saturday the 18th of September, and the men's enduro race starts local time 12:45 in Jersey on Saturday the 18th. So yeah, bear that in mind. This time around, it's the Saturday, not the Sunday. So don't let it slip by and wake up on Sunday morning thinking you're going to watch a triathlon and game over for you. We got a few wild cards added. Oliver Turner from Ollie Turner from Jersey, and Joshua Lewis from another Channel Island. And Guernsey, that's it. Yeah, I couldn't remember its fucking name then. And so that's going to be interesting. And we're a bit of local talent coming through to try and do what they can.
There's a few interesting things on this start list, because we know that there's the WTCS Hamburg event that's on for some reason this weekend.
Yeah.
But I also saw when I was going through the 70.3 world start list that Aaron Royal is on that list as well as this list. So I'm curious to see which one he does. And also then we've got Jake Birtwistle, I think he's going to be going to do Hamburg because I saw he was on the start list. So it'll be interesting to see who actually, who chooses for Hamburg over Jersey. That's the only sort of thing that sucks about this weekend.
It will be interesting to see that. Now, this is looking at this format, swim, bike, run, swim, bike, run, swim, bike, run. Who do we think is going to come out on top in the men's and the women's races, Mr. Ford?
Vince Louis. It's Vince. Richard Murray used to dominate this, but again, I was watching this. I watched a version of this in Singapore today, which I know Vince just dominates because he's so good at these super short things. He knows Jersey really well. So, as you said, I think he's done all of them, if not most of them. Hayden, of course, I think we're going to start to see those two, and Johnny. I think those three probably we're going to see them start to really probably pull ahead on points at this point because I don't know why. That's just my gut. And then in the women's race. Jess Limont. I just think she's just going to keep doing what she does, mate. She doesn't need She doesn't need the TT at the start to do what she did. Like, I think we're going to see Jess. I think it'll probably be the same. Jess, Georgia, and probably Katie this time because Katie is obviously the queen.
Yeah,
of Jersey
Jess's
too.
ability in the water seems to be unparalleled at the moment. Who have we got on the women's side? You've got Jess Learmonth, Sophie Colbert, and Maya Kingma would probably be my three top swimmer picks. If you could see Jess, Sophie, and Maya maybe stay together, then you could have a sprint for that short shoot, and that might make a bit of a difference in the race. But if I'm honest, my brain is telling me that Jess Learmonth is going to come out of the water first and is going to get that short shoot, and then we're going to see a similar pattern to what we saw in the previous race.
Don't forget, one thing about Jersey is it's got that very, very steep ramp up to, it's quite a decent run from the swim exit up to transition. Yeah, so maybe we could see some. Maybe Sophie, Sophie's such a strong athlete herself. Maybe we'll see.
I remember that ramp well from the time I did the relay with Alistair Brownlee, mate. It was a hell of a ramp for him to get up with his dodgy ankle, but still he did it. Anyway, on the men's side, Vince Louis is gonna take it out, isn't he?
He's I think so. I'm willing to put money on that. I think I'm a very brave man to pick. I don't know, the two people that are leading the series, Jess Learmonth and Vincent Louis. I'm going out on a limb, James. People are going to say that I'm a genius.
Anyway, on the wrapping that up, just to give you a quick indication of where the teams' standings are, the SLT Eagles are flying high on 182 points in the lead. The SLT Scorpions are on 139. The SLT Sharks are on 129. The Cheetahs are on 106, and the Rhinos, up your game, Rhinos are in the fifth place with 93.
James Bale, we are going to chuck in an interview that we haven't recorded yet, but we're going to record it tomorrow with Joe Skipper. I'm sure everybody is very familiar with who Joe is, so we'll drop that interview and then we'll be back afterwards.
Yeah, so this week we're joined by friend of the podcast, Joe Skipper, 33-year-old long-distance professional triathlete. Joe's recently finished second in Ironman Switzerland, helped Team Europe take victory at the Collins Cup, and taken the tape at Ironman UK. Currently ranked 5th in the PTO rankings, Joe's aiming for another impressive showing at Kona in February, following his top 10 finishes in 2018 and 2019. Joe, mate, thanks for coming on. How's things?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. That was quite some intro. Well,
there's more and more to say every time you come on.
I always say that you can tell how impressive a guest is by how long it takes James to introduce them, and that was a pretty long introduction, Joe. So well done.
Yeah, cheers.
Yeah, man. So last time you came on, talking about the intro getting longer. Last time it was April 2020. And what a year that turned out to be. Is it nice to be back to some racing and be able to make plans again?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was, I must have spoke to you guys just after COVID, hit properly. But we didn't really know the full extent of it then, did we? Thought it might be.
You'd done your long bike ride. I remember you were in a bit of
just
trouble.
After that?
Yeah, it was
just after that. Yeah, you were getting online grief.
Mate. Oh, I got trolled big time after that.
Imagine that. Imagine people trolling people for doing something online. I can't put myself in that mindset. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's crazy that was.
So yeah, the certainty, it's a good thing. You've been able to. I mean, obviously you've been racing a lot. It's been great to get back racing for you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've just been making the most of it. So, the start of this year, I went to Dubai when we were in lockdown. But I thought originally it might be 3 or 4 weeks, but it ended up being nearly 3 months. And then that got put on the red list. So if you wanted to come back from Dubai to England from Dubai, you'd have to go to a hotel for 2 weeks. So I was out there training for Ironman Texas, and that got cancelled. And then there was a couple of 70.3, so I thought, well, I'll go and do them because I can get a couple of races on just in case the season gets cancelled, and then I can actually get home anyway. Because if I'd been in America, I could fly back and didn't have to go to a hotel, so it was like pretty much the only way I could get home anyway. So did 2 races out there, 70.3 Galveston in Florida, come back and then raced Ironman Tulsa, which was okay. Had a crash on the bike during the race, which kind of I think took the edge off me, but got 6. It was all right. It was like fairly it was a solid result, but it wasn't anything great. And then won Ironman UK, 3rd at Lake Placid, and then building up to Kona, and then obviously that got cancelled. So put myself into raced the Collins Cup, and then put myself into Ironman Switzerland because I thought, well, if Kona's been cancelled, I might as well look for some alternatives. And then did that, got 2nd, had a really good race for myself, but I was just gutted to get beaten, really disappointing because I put together a really solid marathon, but unfortunately Jan van Berkel was just too strong, and he managed to run faster than me. And then now I've got one more race left of the year, Ironman Chattanooga, like next weekend.
Yeah, so Switzerland was following the Collins Cup. Do you think the Collins Cup took something out of your legs going in and getting that 2nd place?
Not really. No, I felt pretty good, to be honest. Like I had my best ever swim, like managed to get out in the lead pack for a change. Bike, the power felt really good. Like the numbers were decent. And then the run, the run was long. Like I got just under 43 kilometers on my, my watch, which like normally they're short in an Ironman or like level at best. So 700 meters long, and I still run 2:39. But Jan would just run phenomenal. Like, I took 30 seconds out of him in transition because I made a decision not to put socks on because I knew every second would count, and that gave me a bit of a buffer. But he managed to catch me, and then he put another minute into me, and managed, like, he must have run like 2:35. If it was accurate distance, because when I uploaded it to Training Peaks, it said I did a marathon in 2:36, which is like I'd have took that before. But it just wasn't good enough, like 2 minutes faster.
Speaking about the Switzerland race, there was a lot of discussion I saw online around the role of motorbikes and a bit of drafting and stuff like that. We actually, one of our MX members, Reece Stewart, asked a question for us to ask you. And he said, what's your solution for the media camera motos that still allow producing content and a live broadcast to grow the sport? Or is the problem more in athletes not getting pulled up and penalised for sliding in or drafting?
The thing is, it's not the media motorbikes. That's what people keep thinking. We had 4 or 5 marshals with us, race marshals. There was only 2 media bikes.
Yep.
Like, we had like 4 or 5 marshals. Why do you need 4 or 5 marshals for? They don't do anything anyway. There was loads of drafting. They didn't penalise anyone.
Yep.
But then when you've got 4 or 5 marshals there, and then you've got 2 media bikes, you've got 7 motorbikes. And the problem is, like, they push the wind out the way and they just pull everyone along a little bit. I mean, to be fair, they were keeping mostly to the side. But then the problem is with that anyway, is when people get dropped, like, they're riding, like, say, on the right-hand side of the road and all the motorbikes are on the left and they get dropped and they're like, okay, I'll just move over to the left-hand side, and then the motorbikes suck them back up again, and before you know it, they're back in. And, like, it still does pull the pack along a bit, even if they're over to the side, because you've got 7 motorbikes that are moving the air, and that does still make a difference. And then sometimes they go a little in front a bit, and I saw a study the other day, which was done in Holland, and it said that one single motorbike, at 30 meters makes 2.6 seconds every minute at 45 kilometers an hour. And I kind of worked that out. That's a 10-minute gain over an Ironman if you do a 4-hour bike split from having one motorbike at 30 meters. So having 7 motorbikes, even if they are to the side, is massive. And it's a shame. It ruins it for everyone because, first of all, it neutralizes the race because people can't attack. Like, I did some big efforts in that, and it was impossible to get away. The only time you could break the race up was when the Frenchman got away, and then a couple of motorbikes buggered off with him. So we'd got rid of 3 motorbikes, so there was only like 3 or 4 there. So then when you did attack, there wasn't as many. People couldn't get pulled back into the pack again like they could before. So then the race broke up, but it took like 130, 140 Ks before he went away, and then like you were actually able to race properly. So it makes the weaker cyclists keep in there, stronger cyclists can't get away, and anyone who's missed the swim pack is totally screwed because they've got 7 motorbikes helping the lead group at the front. So like they can't. This game over. There's no way they can get in because like there was one poor guy who, like, his data's on Strava, 340 watts he put out for the first lap, and he still lost time. It's just ridiculous. But how you get away with it, I think one of the big things is you make a 20-meter draft zone, because then even if you've got 6 motorbikes with the group, that 6 motorbikes is spread out then over the space of like 150 meters, because say there's like there was 10 of us in the group. So if we're all keeping 20 meters, then that's 200 meters from front to back if everyone's riding 20 meters. So then it has less of an impact because the motorbikes are spread out. Whereas if we're only 10 meters away, then you've got 7 motorbikes in the space of 100 meters, and that's just massive. And some of the motorbikes were hanging around the back. But then it just meant if anyone got dropped by the riders, the motorbikes create a much bigger draft than the riders anyway, and they just move over and get pulled back up. And then when the race eases up again, they're back in the pace line. So that's why you get 10 riders that just stay together for what seems like an eternity, because the motorbikes just enable that.
Do you think that it may be part of the issue is the fact that it's the course design? Like we're talking about a lot of the Ironman races are a race designed for mass participation. So you have these big 1-loop, 2-loop courses, which means that, again, talking from, I guess, a broadcaster or even an officiating point of view, is there's not the opportunity or you need to have people out on bikes because they're at some points 100 kilometers away from the transition. Do you think that, let's talk professional racing now, let's take away the age group element. Do you think that if it was a case of purely professional racing where they could make the courses maybe tighter or lapped, or not the need to go so far away and come back, they could take that element away by maybe making fixed cameras, having officials positioned differently? Do you think that's maybe a part of the solution, or is that just, it's just going to be a problem if someone's had that many people?
Yeah, I think like the fixed cameras would just make the coverage look terrible. Like you need the motorbikes there, but you just need less marshals. Like if they had 2 media bikes and just like maybe one marshal who just stayed behind the race the whole time watching, and then another marshal who was just stay in the middle, then you've only got 4 motorbikes, and all of a sudden you've knocked out 50% of the media coverage. Like I saw Frankfurt, and I counted 14 motorbikes in that group. Wow. Why do you need 14 motorbikes? Do you know what I mean? Like there's only 2 with cameras on. Like what are the other 12 doing? Like, and then like so it's just like there's just too many marshals, and the marshals don't do anything anyway. Like I don't, you can get a lead motorbike and a lead car, but they should be out quite far ahead, just so the marshals know when the group's coming. Really, they shouldn't be impacting it. And then 2 media bikes should be enough for that one group to do stuff. And to be honest, the media bikes are back and forth anyway. They're going with the chase group, coming back up. I don't think they're too bad, but it's just the extra amount of marshals they're putting in that you just don't really need. They're just unnecessary, that are like getting in the way. But hopefully, I saw Challenge Almere this week and watched bits of it, and it looked like a really good race. There was no motorbikes getting in the way, and then you see a much better race. You see guys coming from behind, like catching the group. There was literally no groups, to be honest. There was just everyone in 1s and 2s, and I think, to be honest, that makes much more exciting racing, because you can get some guys that are strong cyclists that get a buffer, and then they're getting chased down by the guys that are stronger runners that get off the bike behind. Whereas like, who wants to watch like the strongest runners get sucked along for a free ride on the bike and then bugger off after 300 meters of the run in Ironman? It just makes it boring, doesn't it? You almost know who's won then, like by the time you get 5k into the race, don't you? Whereas like, what you want to see is the cyclist struggling to hold the runners off, and it coming down to the last 5k, and you're thinking, oh, will he, won't he? That's what we want to see.
Like the Camworth Lionel Sanders race we saw in Copenhagen, where it looked like Lionel was going to run Cam down, and ultimately he didn't. But you had that, I guess, that narrative running through the race.
Exactly, yeah, it keeps you engaged for a lot longer then, doesn't it? And it makes it more exciting.
One of the things we've discussed a lot, I guess, offline in the MX community, and we've had a few discussions on the podcast, and again, not to replace Ironman racing, but do you think that there is a place for draft legal long course racing? And again, not to replace Ironman, but do you think it would be a viable thing to test and see how it would work if you were to create a pack element on the bike and then maybe some team element or something to set up? Like, do you think that would?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I think give it a go. Like, there's no harm, is there?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, in giving it a go. Like, it'd be good if someone did do a race and try it, because there's nothing, no harm in like giving it a go and seeing how the race ends up. See if it's decent. It could be quite fun, especially if you had like an undulating course.
Yeah.
People getting away in breakaways,
Yeah.
I think it could be.
Add a bit of a pro cycling element into it. Be unique.
Yeah. Especially if you had some teams.
Yeah, too right. Talking about different concepts and teams, how did you find the Collins Cup?
I really enjoyed it. Like, I thought it was awesome, like being part of the team. There was a really good atmosphere amongst everyone there, like good banter between people.
Great banter. It was incredible.
It was really fun, and I loved racing like with like 3 people at a time, because there was nowhere to hide, and there's quite a lot of like pressure. It kind of got you like really up for it because you really didn't want to have a bad race when there's literally just you and two others, because you're going to look terrible on TV, aren't you? So
You were probably quite lucky about how the timing worked, because by the time you were getting towards the end of the race, everybody else had sort of finished. So, like, I think one of the things with the broadcast, it was a little bit sporadic, and we didn't always necessarily get to see a lot of what we wanted. Whereas you and Jackson was center stage for like a good 5 minute chunk. Like, we saw that whole battle play out, which was, again, talking about that. But like, obviously, you're on the wrong end of it. But as a spectator, that was probably one of the most exciting parts of the race. Did
yeah.
Jackson say anything to you as he passed you? Did he have a few little words to you, or?
I don't think so. I think he just wanted to make sure he dropped me. But no, I did watch the broadcast back, to be honest, because I had to get a long train ride the 2 days after to Switzerland. So I wanted to watch it to see what it was like. And I know what you mean. Like, they just missed some decent bits of action. I thought it was good, but like, it would have been good if they did it again, and like they could show more of the action. Like, I guess they just need someone who's really switched on and knows what people want to see, because they had a lot of cameras out there. Like, there was a motorbike with like every race filming it, and even on like loads of the run, I had a motorbike in front of me, filming it. So they must have got loads, like, which they could probably make into a good show if they wanted to, if they like a good 1 hour show. But I think next time when they do it, if they get the action a bit better, and then they can show like some power data, heart rate data, live and stuff like that, because it would have been really good if you could have seen on the screen for that bit when Jackson was chasing me down, our current speed, and then if you could have seen like what our heart rates were or something like that, that would have been really interesting. But yeah, if they can do stuff like that in the future, then that would make it really good.
Do you have any insight? Because I know that was a lot of talk around that was the intention. And I saw that they had, some people had bikes on their phones to try to, I guess, transmit the data. And on their website, they had a place for it all. And some athletes were showing heart rate, some athletes were showing power. Not everybody was. Like, do you know if that was the intention? They maybe had some teething problems, or like what was what?
I'm
what
not sure. Like, they
information
had someone that was like paired their we met the guys after the press thing, and they paired their like thing that gets the data to my watch, which was meant to get like the heart rate and pace data from that for when I was on the run. But and like some people were using their heart rate monitors, which were supposed to like broadcast heart rate. But I don't think they were planning to get power on the bike and put it on the show, because they thought it might overcomplicate things too much with people like not knowing what it was. But I think like going forward, they're definitely planning to do that for like other races.
I think if you look at all the new broadcasting we're having this year, or not even new, but the different types of broadcasting we're having, we had the tri battle that had the power and the heart rate. We had the Collins Cup, which was trying to show the gaps really well. Like, I think if you actually start to look at everything and take away little elements from everything we're seeing now, if you were to put it all together, we'd actually have a really, really polished, exciting product that I think would work.
Especially if you watch like the Ironman racing, to say like when I was in Switzerland, and you could see like everyone had to have their power meters, joined up, and you could see live power data, and then they could also say like on the commentary they could get info like last 20-minute power, or like peak 20-minute power of the race, or something like that, and put it up on the screen and just have a little talk about that while the coverage is in, and like seeing what like the fastest he did the last 20k at this speed or something like that, and so someone behind did it at that speed. That would make it really good, wouldn't it? Just more stuff to talk about.
Exactly.
Also, some of the coverage, they need some better commentators, don't they? Like,
I think so.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit on the podcast, didn't we? There was some elements of it that the commentary needed to be a little bit tighter, I think, and a little bit more. There were some elements of the commentary that were really, really good, but certain elements that needed a little bit more knowledge behind them, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, we have another race coming up this weekend that I'd like to talk about, that I'm hoping the coverage is excellent for, and that's the 70.3 World Championship. Joe, we're excited to talk to you. You've always got the inside scoop, and probably on a few of these athletes. You've raced a lot of them. I'm sure you've got some opinions. Jimbo, you've got the summary. I don't know. We just have a bit of a chat about it. We've got the start.
Yeah, I don't think we need the summary, really. I mean, it's the 70.3 World Championships in St. George. It's got a elevation gain on the bike with 3,162 feet of climbing. And yeah, it's probably be due to Kona being delayed to February next year. This is probably the race to end the season. We've got stacked fields. A few names have pulled out in the last few days, but we've still got stacked fields. And what do you think, Joe? Do you think it's going to be a cracking race?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good race. I think, to be honest, the female race is probably going to be a bit more exciting than the males race, looking at like who's in it and the dynamic of how it's going to unfold. But I think both races are going to be really good. It's just a shame that some of the people pulled out of the males, the male race from just not being fit enough. Like if you had a fit Alistair Brownlee and Rudy von Berg on the start list as well, that would have really spiced it up, because I don't think the Norwegians would have wanted to start the run with a fit Alistair, and Alistair wouldn't have wanted to start it with them. And I think you might have seen a few more fireworks. But, I think like if we start off with a men's race, I think Christian and Gustav are definitely going to be the favourites and the men to beat. And I think for the guys that are racing them, it's just going to be really hard for them to get beaten. I think the only way I can see them not winning is if someone drops them on the bike and has a bit of a buffer starting the run. But I just don't think the course is really hard enough to do that. You've only got the Snow Canyon really at the end of the race, and it's only 4% gradient, and then you've got a massive downhill to the finish. So worst case scenario, they're only going to lose 30 seconds. And how much effort have you got to put in to gain that 30 seconds? And then, to hold 30-second lead over a 13-mile run is going to be really hard. And obviously Christian and Gustav are running so well at the moment.
So you don't see anyone in the men's field that could hold them on the run?
If George Goodwin did 70.3 European champs and did a 68, I don't know how accurate that course was, but if it was a genuine 68 minutes, he didn't race the Collins Cup. He's been training really hard for it. Potentially, could give them a run for their money. But I just think he needs a bit of a buffer. Like, I can't see him doing it head to head. I think if he gets a minute, he's a very good cyclist, but then he loses time in the swim. So he might ride hard on the bike, but it will just be catching back up to them. Like, I think he needs a minute starting the run, and I just don't know how. I just can't see him getting a minute. If they both are on really good in really good form, especially with the size of the pack that you might get on the bike as well.
You touched on it before, but I think looking at the men's list, it is almost a case of it's more about the names who aren't on the list than are. Like, we've lost Alistair Brownlee, we've lost Rudy von Berg, we've lost Lionel Sanders, we've lost Matt Hansen. Jan Frodeno's not even racing. We actually have a chat that's going in after this with Macca talking with Vince Louis about the race, and hearing them talk about it, assuming that Jan Frodeno was racing, they were still saying, "Yeah, we think it's Jan Frodeno." Do you think if Jan was in the race, he would probably walk away with this? Like, do you think he's the person that could have taken it to the Norwegians?
I don't know. Like, I don't think Jan's going to run faster than them, and they're going to swim with him, and they're going to. I can't see Jan dropping them on the bike. I mean, if you look at the Collins Cup, for instance, Gustav put 30-40 seconds into Jan's time, and I think Jan, being a bigger athlete on a hillier course like St George, is going to pay more into Gustav's favour. Christian is arguably a better runner than Gustav, like certainly for 10k. I don't know about 13k because he doesn't do, or 13 miles, sorry, because he doesn't do that many of them. It's hard to know. But I think Jan would find it very hard, potentially. I mean, you couldn't bet against him, but I don't know if he would win. Like, I think it would be great to watch. And I think if Alistair was fit as well, I mean, saying that, Gomez is obviously in the race as well.
Is he?
Oh, he's not. He's pulled out. He's pulled out.
He's pulled out. Oh, like,
so I was told today he was pulled out.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah. That might be wrong. I saw that on Twitter, so let's give that the credit it deserves.
Yeah. So basically, if the men's race had the full field, you had Gomez, if you had Frodeno in there, if you had a fit Alistair Brownlee, Rudy von Berg, Lionel Sanders, I think it would be absolutely awesome. Sam Long, I mean, like, he's going to be good, but like, he's going to lose too much time on the swim. If he gets in contention on the bike, he's not going to outrun the Norwegians if he starts with them. But he could be, I would say he could be like third, fourth, fifth, something like that. If he catches up to that group on the bike, that's the big thing. Can he catch them on the bike? Jackson Laundry, he had his run at the Collins Cup. Like, I saw the PTO post, was like the fastest in the internationals team, and only 30 seconds slower than Frodeno.
Yeah.
And he's quite light as well, so potentially St George could suit him. And I've heard that he was going. His whole season aim was for Collins Cup and St George. So if he's been in peak form for St George, maybe.
Do you think there is we've got some athletes like Magnus Ditlev, we've got, as you said, Sam Long, Frederick Funk, Andreas Dreitz, some people who could, potentially try to take it to the Norwegian. Like, maybe we'll see something where these guys might have a bit of a pact before the race and say, we need to try to drop these Norwegians on the bike and
But the
commit
thing
to it.
is, they've got to catch them first
Yeah,
on the
first,
bike because they're going to get dropped on the swim. That's the big crux for them guys. Like, if they make the front pack, then maybe they could take it to them. But if they don't make the front pack, it's game over for them, I think, because they're going to put a lot of effort into catch. And then the way the course is, if you look at the profile, I mean, you said there's like 3,100 feet, but I think like 4 or 5 miles at 4% is Snow Canyon, which comes at 45 miles. You know, if you'd have put Snow Canyon in at 15 miles, it's a different story. You could drop them and then you've got 30, 40 miles to build up a lead. But if you hit Snow Canyon with 10 miles to go, how much can you gain? 30 seconds, then you've got a massive descent where you don't even pedal to the finish. So you can't gain the time. You only gain a little bit of time at the end of the race, and then everyone's going to be fresh hitting into transition, and then the person that's attacked only got 40 seconds, topped, something like that.
Well, one of the things we do on this podcast, Joe, and as a third mic today, is you're going to have to join us, is we have to make some picks. So who do we think is going to podium, boys?
We got to pick the men's side first, and then we'll have a chat through the women, shall we? So go on, Joe. Let you go first. You can pick. Give us your podium for the men's race?
I'll go Gustav, Christian, and then Sam Long.
Good choice. James Bale, I've seen yours, so I'm going to let you go.
Yeah, I've written mine down. I mean, I haven't chosen a Norwegian to win the race. I'm going to put Daniel Bekkegaard as my winner, Gustav Eden in second, and Christian Blumenfeld to round off the podium.
I'm going to go similar to James, but in a different order. I'm going to go with Gustav Eden to win, Christian Blumenfeld come second, and Daniel Bekkegaard to come third. I reckon Daniel's 3:29 in Dubai was serious, and we saw how he went on this course with that. He had obviously had the DQ ultimately at St. George earlier this year, but from what we heard Daniel say, and again, whether it's true or not, he was just warming up, and he reckons he could have gone and beaten Lionel and Sam that race. So I reckon Daniel's going to be he's going to be right up there, and so
he's going to be up there definitely because he swims front pack as well. Yeah, he'll definitely. He's a better swimmer than them, I think. To be honest, like I think he's quicker than them in the water, so there's not going to be any doubts as to whether or not he makes the front pack. To be honest, I was either going to pick him or Sam Long anyway, but like I think, and he'll definitely be with him on the bike, and like he'll start the run at the front, but I just don't think that he can run the speed that they can.
Yeah,
but it would be good if he could attack on the bike and get away with someone like Magnus Ditlev or something like that. I'd like to see the Norwegians get dropped on the bike because I think it would make a very exciting race.
I just like to see Christian when he does get you watch him in the short course race, he gets very fired up on the bike. Like he's the most Alistair Brownlee like short course athlete I've seen since Alistair Brownlee, where he is the one that's sort of like, put your fucking finger out, let's fucking go.
And if anything, going on from what you say about that, like how he is like that could work in his be in his detriment for this race because he could be too fired up, go too hard, and with the heat, like I've been seeing, it's getting up to 40 degrees Celsius there, in the middle of the day, he could end up cooking himself on the bike, overheating, and not even making the podium. I think with Christian, he's like one extreme or the other, isn't he? He's going to be incredible and he's going to be right up there, or he's going to go too hard and he's going to blow and he's going to finish 10th place.
As much as the Norwegians are proving how good they are across the distances, we can't say they aren't. I mean, a few years ago, I think it was Jan Frodeno said to us, the Norwegians say a lot, and they do say a lot, and they have proved a lot. But I don't think we can just let their mystique sort of dominate the narrative in the sense that they are going to have races where they have bad races. They are going to have races where the heat affects them. They are going to have races where they're not on form. So I don't think we can always just let their mystique sort of dictate our picks.
If people want to win this race, ultimately they've got to have the balls to take it to the Norwegians.
100%.
Like I think you've got to swim front pack, and if you want to win it, you've got to drop them, and you've got to drop them early on the bike. That's the only way people win. And it depends if people want to race for the win or if they want to race for a top 5. But if you're racing for the win, you have to be prepared to put in a big effort at the start of the bike, drop them, and then put time into them on the run. You start the run with 3 minutes on the lead, and you can run like, say Sam Long and Lionel Sanders did, where they run a 71 on that course. I can't see them running 68 or under on that course. No way. So, it all depends whether or not you've got the balls to go for it. That's why Rudy Von Berg and Alistair Brownlee, like with how Rudy attacked it before, if him and say Alistair had got together, managed to drop and put work together, it completely throws a spanner into the works. And, Jan would have been good in there because he would have raced to win and he would have like looked at his tactics and it would have added another dynamic. So it just depends on how the other what the other athletes want to do. You know, are they going to play it safe, or are they just going to go all in and it's like first or nothing?
I also think this is going to be one of the first times, really, that those boys are going in with a big target on their backs. Like, not to say they haven't always been. I mean, the two fastest 70.3 athletes of all time, but this is a race where there's a big focus on those Norwegians, and they're not able to fly under the radar at all. They are going to be, as you said, the one that everybody's going to probably be thinking, if we're going to try to win this, we have to counter them. We have to come up with a strategy to beat them, and that's probably going to be a bit different because you look at the Challenge Daytona last year. Gustav was again. We knew he was a 70.3 world champion, but he wasn't really the big hype person that everybody's expecting. Same when he won, like nobody even people like, who's this dickhead on a road
No,
bike?
that's true. Yeah. And if you look at his biking, he is vulnerable on the bike. I mean, like in the Collins Cup, like I mean, I think I put like a couple of minutes into him on the bike, you know, something like that. So on the flatter bits, which are fast, which you would normally say, if the pack's small, basically, if someone like Daniel Beckard can like go very hard on the swim and they can actually narrow it down to 4 or 5 people, potentially they could drop him. You know, they could drop the Norwegians on the bike. They're definitely vulnerable, especially like Christian probably, because I don't know how much riding he's done on a TT bike. And it's a different ball game than riding a road bike. But if there's a big group that gets out the swim, that's going to be hard because it's just so easy to sit in the back of a group and just save a lot of, you know, power. So, you know, ideally someone needs to push the swim, narrow it down, and then hit them hard and just try and drop them.
Well, we will see, boys. We will see. Let's have a look at the women's side of things, which is basically a who's who of long course athletes. I mean, we've got Daniela Reeve, Holly Lawrence, Imogen Simmons, Chelsea Sodaro, Lucy Charles Barkley, Emma Pallant-Brown, Katrina Matthews, Paula Finley's pulled out, Carrie Lester, Sky Monch, Ellie
Did you say Paula
Salthouse,
Finley's
Nikki
pulled
Bartlett.
out?
Yeah, saw an article.
She has,
just before we hit
I
record.
saw the...
Really? What?
Yeah,
She's out there already in St George, isn't she?
Yes, literally saw an article
Yeah,
just
and
before.
she won't be racing.
Yes, saw an
Why
article
is that
come
then?
out. I don't know, to be honest. I just saw it come out on social media before.
She beat the Strava com on Snow Canyon like 3 days ago or something.
Yeah, no, I was shocked by it. So I
Talk
literally.
amongst yourselves, boys. I'll find out why she's pulled out while you...
The other one, obviously,
Yeah,
who's missing that I would have loved to have seen race would be Flora Duffy after her Olympic
Oh,
race.
that would have been awesome. Yeah, so disappointing that she's not racing as well. Like, that would have been great to have her in the mix as well.
This race, though, you said it before, I think it's 100% true. This is the race. Like, this is the race I kind of wanted the men's race to be, but we saw how many people are going to be MI. Everyone who I can think of, that, obviously with the exception of Flora and a few of the others, but this is a absolutely fire race. It really is.
It's hard to pick a winner. And
Yeah.
everyone's got their different strengths and weaknesses. You know, like for me, like looking at the women's field, like if I had to pick a winner for it, I'd probably say Lucy Charles. But if Taylor Knibb drops her on the bike, then I think Lucy's going to be in a lot of trouble. And like looking at how well Taylor rode at the Collins Cup on a very fast flat course that doesn't suit a road bike at all, she's going to be okay on the road bike on the fast bits of the course. But then also Snow Canyon, you know, a road bike is that she's going to be like in her element going up there. And that could put like Lucy and the other girls under pressure. And I think if Taylor starts at a 1 minute lead, can Lucy catch her with a 1 minute lead? You know, I don't know. That's going to be extremely close. I think if Lucy gets off the bike with her, Lucy's going to win it. But I think if Taylor drops her on the bike, I think Taylor's going to win it. And I don't know whether or not what's going to happen. I think it's going to be so close.
I want to look at Taylor Knibb a little bit because we saw her race Boulder just before the Collins Cup, and she actually came second to Emma Pallant-Brown. I don't know whether I saw that and was like, yeah, Taylor's great, and then we saw her Edmonton and Collins Cup where she absolutely powered away. What do you think changed between Boulder? Is it the altitude? Is it the course? And then that where she's just suddenly gone, no, I am this great. Like, what do you think is the reason for that, Joe?
Well, also, you don't know how good she was feeling. You know, it was a week after the Olympics, wasn't it? You know, like that would have taken a lot out of you, you know, emotionally as well. Like,
Yep.
You know, she's just won second place in the mixed relay. She probably celebrated a bit, was happy, then flew back. She went to altitude from being at sea level, raced a half Ironman straight away at altitude, which is definitely going to take a lot out of you. Plus the whole Tokyo experience, from what it sounds like, you know, you were like, it was quite like stressful for people there. I think, you know, you couldn't go out when you wanted to. You had to do certain things. You were literally confined almost to your route to the athlete village, weren't you? So, you know, she had all that going on. Then raced Boulder a week later. I mean, most people wouldn't dream of racing another like a half Ironman at altitude a week later. So I think that was probably why. And then she recovered from it, got some training in, and then now she's like in really good form.
This has got to be one of the first times I think in a long time that we're leading to a World Championship event, and none of us have mentioned Daniela Ryf yet. Like, I find this such
Yeah.
a weird situation to be in. This has been a very weird year. You look at Katie Zafiris with the Olympics, and now we saw Danny have her stumble, or a few little stumbles this year, mostly at the Collins Cup. But then she obviously destroyed everybody in Switzerland. What do we think of Daniela Ryf's chances?
Well, I think like she did rap as well, and she wasn't 100% there, wasn't she? And then she did the Collins Cup, and although like she was ill, you kind of look at it and think, oh, how much does you can't. No one knows how much the illness had as an effect, do they? And you look at the result, and you look 15 minutes you got taken out of you. The illness might have cost you 15, 20 minutes, but it seems like a lot, doesn't it? And then you kind of. And then doing an Ironman a week later, how much, that's not ideal, is it? Doing an Ironman 2 weeks before a world 70.3 champs, like, a 12-hour flight away. So it's all going to take a toll, isn't it? And I think like some of these other girls have just been racing halves. They've been training for it, like, and they've gone all in on it. And if it had been Daniela of old, where she'd have been dominating the Collins Cup, if she'd have dominated Rapperswil, Switzerland probably didn't take too much out of her because she was so far ahead. She probably cruised the last bit. But if she'd have dominated them last 2 races, we'd have all been going, it's going to be Daniela right in the mix. But because the form doesn't seem like it's been there, it might be, and she might have had like 2 bad races for the genuine reasons. But like, we can only go on what we've seen, can't we?
Yep.
And what we've seen doesn't wow you like Taylor and Lucy Charles's performances have. And also,
it's one of the...
Well, sorry, I can see Daniela getting massively exposed on the swim as well. I can see Taylor and Lucy dropping her on the swim, putting a minute into her, and then if she claws back, how's she going to run against them two? Because they're really good runners as well.
It's a really good point. You're going to see, they could really, like Lucy and Taylor could put a decent chunk of time into the whole field, to be honest, because there is I guess they're sort of that level, and then there's a bit of a gap. I think the other one that we've failed to mention that I think definitely deserves some love here is Kat Matthews. Kat Matthews' performance at the Collins Cup flew under the radar for a lot of people. Like, she was fire. She can run like the clappers, and there's a lot of downhill running in this race too, which is going to suit Kat Matthews as well. The only question is going to be about that swim deficit, but I think she was second fastest bike split at the Collins Cup and one of the fastest run splits. Like, she was one of the fastest overall. She's been over there for a while now as well. I think Kat Matthews could also be another one who's going to fly under the radar and could do some real damage on that course as well.
Yeah, definitely. She'll need to put herself in the mix on the bike, won't she? And I'll tell you who I think is going to fly under the radar, who I think could potentially win it, who people aren't talking about, is that Jackie Herron. Like, her run in the Collins Cup, fastest run, incredible run. She like massive. I mean, Anne Howe ran well in Roth, didn't she, a week later, like, off that. And I think Jackie Herron put quite a decent bit of time into her, on the run. At the Collins Cup, and I think like if she can get out of the water in a good position, and then if she's in a pack and able to stay there, and they kind of ride themselves in contention a bit starting the run, she starts the run within 2 minutes, she could win that on the run. She ran a 104 in the Collins Cup.
Yeah.
She was less than a minute behind Lionel Sanders on the run.
Jesus,
like that's extremely impressive.
What about the Holly Lawrence, Ellie Salthouse round 2 or round 3? We saw
Can't
Holly.
wait.
Yeah, we saw obviously Holly was second in Nice behind Daniela in 2019. She had the crash obviously at the Collins Cup. Holly Lawrence is an expert at 70.3 worlds. She rises to another level. She beat Daniela Ryf to win the race in 2016, second 2019. Holly Lawrence is going to be fired up because of what happened at the Collins Cup. I think she's another one who is absolutely going to be firing on all cylinders for this race. And Ellie Salthouse is going to want to actually have that race that they've talked about. That's another one I think is going to be really interesting.
That was my highlight from the Collins Cup, was them two fighting on the swim. And then
so good. First time a swim's been interesting.
It was.
I know, it's just such a shame, the crash.
It was like a brawl, wasn't it, that swim?
I know, I'd have loved to have seen it on the run as well, like head to head. That would have been the best match of the Collins Cup. That was awesome, wasn't it? I was watching that before I did my race, and I thought, God, look at them two
go. Yeah, they were certainly. No one was backing down in that one.
It got me fired. It got me fired up for my race. I was excited to go after watching them two. I was like, God, this is what it's about.
I think somebody asked one of them, or somebody asked Holly, did Ellie say as she rode past after Holly had gone down, "That's karma, bitch"? I think that would have been.
That was me. Yeah, that was me. I asked her that when we were at the bowling alley.
I would have said that, like if I was her and I'd have gone past, Yeah. Like you would have had to, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So then, picks for this one then,
Oh,
chaps.
God, this
Who's
is-
going first this time?
Joe's the guest. He's always allowed to go first.
All right.
That's
Joe,
just
gotta
because
go
you want to
first,
see what
right?
I've got, so you can like.
It is 100%. You caught me.
I'll go for the women's race. I'll go for Lucy Charles, then I'll go Taylor Knibb, and then for me it's either I think I'll go for Jackie Herron. Like no one's talked about her, and I think I'll pick her. Actually, I don't know, Emma Pallant-Brown though as well. Like she's been flying.
Yeah, we haven't even
I'll go
spoken
for
about Emma Pallant-Brown.
I know.
Yeah.
I've got to go for Emma Pallant. Like she's been dominating this year, and I'm gonna go for her actually for third. I like her as well.
Can you goddamn Brits stop being so fucking strong at the moment? This is out of control. I'm looking at this and I'm like, I could pick an all British.
But there's loads of people though, isn't there? To be fair, the women's race, like there's 10 people you could pick that could potentially win it, isn't there? Really, I've just gone for people who are more in the media, I guess. But I wouldn't be surprised if I didn't get any of the podium, because there's so many girls that could rise to the challenge, like you said, like Ellie Salthouse, Holly Lawrence, Kat Matthews, Jackie Herron, Jenny Metzler, she's a really good runner. Daniela Reef, not even being picked Daniela Reef, which is crazy, isn't it? To not even pick her as your podium for a world champs. I mean,
it's a fantastically deep field, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a good problem to have. It's a good problem for us to have. Jimbo, who are your picks?
All right, Fordo, you're going next on this one, mate. I went
hell.
next.
You can see what I was trying to do. I'm going to back. Far out. I don't know. I think I am going to go with. I'm going to go Danny. I think it's a safe bet. I'm aware that her form hasn't been great, but I also trust her to perform on the big stage when it counts. She's had a relatively disappointing year by her standards, so she'll want to say or make a statement. And I think, I don't know where her head's at, so it's a big risk. I think she'll either win it or she'll be minutes back. So I'm taking a bit of a swing, much like the Americans did with Katie Zafiris at the Olympics. I'm also going to put on the podium Lucy Charles and Holly Lawrence. I think are going to be my second and third. So it'll go Danny, Holly, Lucy. That's my podium.
Okay, well I'm gonna back Kat Matthews for the win.
I love it
because I think she's got the run to pull it out, and I think that she's flying slightly under the radar and not going to be someone that people are particularly talking about. I think Taylor Knibb's going to come second, and I think Lucy Charles Barkley is going to come third.
This is I love it when it's hard to pick. Like that to me gets me so much more excited when it's just like, it's going to be these guys.
That's what you want, isn't it?
Yeah,
you want
exactly.
it to not know, because then it's going to be an exciting race. You don't want it to think, so and so's nailed on, because if they are, it's just boring, isn't it? What are we going to do though? Do the try fantasy thing on Pro Tri?
Have they got one?
The Pro Triathlete website. They normally do,
Awesome.
and then we can get some prizes lined up for whoever gets it.
I did the I was part of the Media Collins Cup pick, and I think I was second overall. And I was like, it's a sad state in the world of triathlon media when I'm second highest. It's a bit rough, but yeah, I like the fantasy thing. I think it's really good. I'm looking forward to this race. It's going to be awesome. But we have to now move on to another race, a race that's been postponed until February next year, and that's Kona. Joe, it's been moved to February. What do you think about this? How does it impact your training plans, everything?
It's a terrible time of the year, isn't it? February for us. I mean, for you guys in the Southern Hemisphere, you're absolutely loving it, aren't you? Halfway through your summer. But for us, I mean, we're training in the middle of winter for it. But I mean, after Chattanooga, I'll have a few weeks off, and then I'll start training. And if it's looking like it's going to go ahead, then I'll probably race it. But it's just whether or not it will go ahead. Who knows? I mean, will the situation be that much different in 3 months' time there?
Well, on that note, I got this just before we recorded from triathlete.com from Kelly O'Mara. Ironman CEO Andrew Messick suggested today that the Ironman World Championship, which throughout its 40-year history has always been staged in Kona, Hawaii, could be moved, saying that the company is considering all possibilities. Speaking at the Ironman 70.3 World Championship press conference in St. George, Messick noted the challenges they face with staging a World Championship event and with handling the ongoing uncertainty during the COVID pandemic. We're exploring every option, he said. That includes potentially taking the race out of Kona. What do you think about that, Joe?
Well, where would they do it, though? Because, if they're going to do it in February, no one can get into Australia or New Zealand, can we? Which would be a good place for it. And, would it be Florida or something?
Probably. It's always Florida.
Yeah.
It's always Florida.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, it would be good for me because the heat in Kona does not suit me at all. So I would see that as a massive plus, as a massive positive, like, because I don't really care where the world champs is. I'm not someone that's like, oh, it's Kona, it's got to be there. Like, for me, it's just about racing the top people on the day, and like wherever it is, like, I don't care. Like, I'd rather it be somewhere like cooler where I can do a good race than like somewhere that's like feel like I'm melting on the tarmac.
Have you heard, because we've heard a lot of the pros talking about how California's becoming the unofficial world championship this year. As a pro, have you heard this? Have you had discussions with other guys about that race?
No, I've not heard that at all.
Okay.
Like, I think I watched Lionel Sanders video and I heard him say that.
Yeah, that's where I got
But
it from.
yeah, like, I've not heard that from anyone. But yeah, I mean, like, if Iron Man had have said we're going to make California the World Championships and got everyone to go there, then I would have gone there. But Iron Man haven't said that, and no one who I know, like, I know Lionel's going to do it, and like, probably Cam Worth will do it because he trains out there, doesn't he? But it's a shame that Iron Man couldn't have just picked another race and just said, look, this is going to be the World Champs. If you want to come, and we'll see. Because none of us care. We just all want to race we just all want to race each other on the day, and then no one can have any excuses, and we can say that was the World Champs and you're the best because you won on that day and you're like top three. It's just a shame it hasn't. But yeah, if we'd have known like 2 months ago or something, or even 6 weeks ago, if they'd have said like this is going to be the World Champs, or even if all the pros had said, look, unofficial World Champs, let's have a crack, I'd have been all up for it.
I would have loved to have seen it. All right, Joe. So let's wind back a few months. One of the reasons that I actually reached out to you to get you to come back on the show was to talk about the sub 7, sub 8 project that Phoenix is doing next year with Lucy, Nicola, Alistair, and Christian. What do you think about it, mate? What do you think about the sub 7, sub 8 project?
I'd like to have a crack at the sub 7 myself. Like, to be honest, like when I saw about it and they said they wanted to go for the sub 7, like first time, I said to some of my mates, wouldn't it be funny to just organise your own race? Like, because there was a guy that did the 100-mile record, and he finished near Norwich, because you can like basically there's a proper 100-mile record which is round the course, and then there's another one where you can pick anywhere, and like you can do a point to point, you can get the weather timed, and everything like that. But similar to what the sub 7 is, kind of a bit of an exhibition. And he went sub 3 hours for 100 miles on the bike. And I said, wouldn't it be funny if you did like the swim near there? You finished the run, you finished the bike like basically at Norwich, which, say if you were riding like that pace by yourself, and then you just carried on running to Great Yarmouth, which is flat, and you'd still have another 25-mile tailwind. I said, you could break sub 7 like that, like. But I think it would be quite entertaining. Like, I think it's I mean, there are two ways of looking at it. I think it will be entertaining to watch, and I'll watch it. But I would also have probably rather have seen them set up an Ironman with, say, like a few people to see how fast you can go, without the whole group. I mean, I'll watch it either way because I think it'll be quite entertaining to see it and to see, how it unfolds. But I'd also like to see a proper world record attempt where it's in more standardized Ironman, rules, where so you can because then you've got something to compare it to, haven't you? Because no one's ever done this before. So if they go sub 7, it sounds great, but like, how quick is it? Because no one's ever tried it, have they? I think it all comes down to the bike, to be honest. If you can get some decent cyclists and you can ride over 50 k's an hour, like 51 k's an hour, sat on their wheels, and you haven't had to spike the power too much, and you've kept it easy, you could probably run like low 230s off the bike, and then that's the core of it done, isn't it?
If you were to be the athlete doing it, what would be your plan? How would you attack the sub 7 race?
Well, obviously on the swim, you'd want some like pace to people to like kind of get into start off a bit slower so you can get settled into a pack, and then I'd want them to swim at like, say, I don't know, 48-minute pace for me, and just try and stay in that on like a well-paced swim, no spikes. On the bike, I'd probably use a road bike, clip-on TT bars, disc wheel, deep section, tri-spoke front. So I had like a TT set up with the wheels and with some nice tri bars that would be mounted onto the road bike. But then I'd want to be sat in a peloton and in more of a road bike position for as much as I could, because I think it'd be easier to sit closer to the wheels in front. Your hip flexors would be a lot more relaxed, so you'd probably run better off the bike. But then you've got the TT bars, so if you can, obviously at certain points you'd want to go on the TT bars. But basically you'd want them to do as much work as possible and keep it as smooth as possible, so you've got hardly any spikes of power. And then once you get onto the run, if you've got a few people around you to shelter you from the wind, obviously, I mean, you're going to try and get the day, so there's not much wind around. But the run, there's not a massive amount they can do, is there, apart from push you? So it all comes down to the bike for me, because you need to go fast, but you need to not screw yourself over on it as well. If you only average 46 k's an hour, 47 k's an hour, it's game over. There's no way they're going to do it. But if they average 51 k's an hour, then it's on.
Who would you pick as your paces if you were going into this race and you could have I think it's 8 paces they're allowed to have? Who would be your guys? Who would be some of your guys?
Well, you'd probably want like a couple of the strongest cyclists in triathlon, and maybe a couple of like time trialists, like pro cyclists. But I think a couple of the triathletes would be good because they're so used to doing a 4-hour hard effort. Whereas some of the pro cyclists are good. They obviously got decent power for like short terms, but how good are they at riding in a team time trial for 4 hours? It's unproven. Like they've never done it. I mean, like Cam Worth would be a good one to pick with his experience and speed. If you had Starkey on there as well, I imagine he'd be pretty handy because he's just a big unit. He'd like offer you a lot of shelter, wouldn't he? I mean, you don't want some skinny pro cyclists, do you? Because they're not going to shelter you from the wind too much. Ganna, if you could have him, be fantastic. That Stefan Kung, who won the European TT Champs, would be another one. And then some more triathletes, I think, as well. And basically just tell them to all ride at 51 k's an hour. And
Easy.
yeah.
If you got the call up, would you be interested in being a pacer?
Oh yeah, I'd definitely be up for it. Yeah.
Who would you want to pace for, Christian or Alistair?
Oh, Alistair, like he's British, isn't he? Definitely. I'd have to be Team Britain, mate.
Fair enough. The next, speaking of this, one of the things you said where you don't really have anything to compare it against, do you think this is the sort of thing we could actually start to see rolled out and maybe become an annual event, and maybe it is different people every year? Or do you think it would be better to do something like that, more akin to the tri battle we saw between Jan Frodeno and Lionel Sanders?
No, I think something like this would probably be more entertaining than the tri battle. And once you've done it a few times, basically once you've done it once, you set a record, don't you? And then it makes it more entertaining the next time someone goes to do it, because they're like, so-and-so did 6 hours 57. So then all of a sudden it's all geared around, how do I break that record? And then if the record gets beaten, you're kind of going faster and like it gets better. I think once you've done it the first time and set a benchmark, then it makes it more entertaining the second time. Yep. But also the tri battle, it's good if they're very close races. If they're not close racing, it's a bit boring, isn't it? Whereas this, they're going all in for a certain time, and you're not really going to know whether or not it's going to happen until the last 10 k's of the run. So it's going to keep you probably more engaged, and it's kind of breaking history, isn't it? Whereas the tri battle, it was like, Jan was ahead, but it was like, he's going to go around 7 hours 30, but it wasn't like you were breaking a big milestone, like sub 7 for an Ironman, as fast as we can with set up pacemakers to help you. I think that makes it a bit more entertaining to watch. Like I'd be more glued to watching this than I would watching the tri battle, to be honest. But the tri battle thing, the tri battle would be good if you had the top 20 guys in the world and you said, right, we're going to have a tri battle with the top 20, invitational only. Let's see who the best is, and we're going to make it a fair race, 20-meter draft zone. Then that's going to be a lot better, isn't it? But with two people, I mean, it's not really that great, is it, to watch?
One of the things I've sort of discussed, and I'm not sure if I've had these on air conversations off air, but what if there was a race where it was an incentive, here's the record, and instead of it being like first place wins this amount, second place wins this amount, what if it was for every minute under the record, or for every 30 seconds under the record, you get $10,000? So instead of it suddenly being this case of, oh, well, I'm not going to win it, who cares, or I might back off, rather than, no, I might not win it, but I can still make $30, $40, $50, $60,000 by going fast. Do you think something like that would then, because I think the secret to these really fast times is, as you say, having a group working together or pushing each other. Do you think that would maybe see times start to move fast if we were to change the way that we reward or award?
Yeah, definitely. Money? Yeah, definitely. And I think it'd be quite fun if you had a race like that, as well. Like, like for instance, like the PTO could always organise a race like that, because they were saying about organising 4 or 5 races, but like that would be interesting, I mean, you could always do prize money as well, like for positions, but then you get extra incentives. Like a lot of running races do that, don't they? Where like for a half marathon or a marathon, you get X amount of money if you win, but then under 206, 205, 204, 203, you get extra money on top of your prize money. I think it would be great because then it encourages everyone to go fast, which is what you want to see, and it encourages close racing and people still fighting for position. You're going to fight for position, but then if you're on for a good time, you're still going to carry on pushing because you can get extra money. I think it would make it really good, and I think that'd be a good idea.
If Jan had have invited you to do the tri battle against him, would you have done it?
100%. Like I think I would have fancied my chances in that conditions. on a course like that, it'd be tailor made for me. It's a flat, fast bike course. Like the swim, obviously, yeah, I'd lose a bit of time on the swim, but then the run, he didn't run quick, did he?
No.
2:43. Like I ran like 2:40, 2:36 pace, at Switzerland, and if I'd had that course, them conditions, I think I'd have easily run the same. So potentially put 7 minutes into him. How much am I going to lose on the swim if I bike the same? I think it could have been a very close match. I think I could have potentially found some more chances.
Well, I love it because you've sort of answered my next question. That is one of the things we hear so many people that come on the show say is that they don't think they can beat Jan Frodeno, or they can only beat Jan Frodeno when he has an off day. You've obviously said you think you can beat him.
Yeah, well, I
What do you?
entered Roth last year. I entered Roth for 2020 to have a crack.
Awesome.
Like that's the reason I want to do it, because I knew they got top guys were going to go there, and I thought let's put myself on the start line and see what they can do. I've raced them in Kona where it doesn't suit me, the conditions, and that's the thing. Like Kona, if I could run well in Kona because of the heat, I think I'd be a big threat there. But like cooler conditions, I think I've run under 2:40 more times than Jan. I think my marathons are quicker than what he's done, which people like. I'm a bigger guy. I'm not even a skinny runner. And then on the bike, on a course that suits me, I'm pretty handy on that. I mean, I'll lose time on the swim, but if it's a head to head and there's no packs to sit in, I think it suits me. I mean, like in the Collins Cup, I had the fastest European bike split time, and to be honest, I took it easy the last 15Ks to save myself for the run, so I could like, try and hold off Jackson. It didn't work, but like I wanted to try and run because I hadn't run very well in the last halves I'd been doing.
Do you think that it's a problem that we have in this at the moment? Is that so many people have this? Like, do you think he's built this allure or this I don't know the word, like aura around him that makes him, like, a lot of people almost feel like they, as soon as they see him enter a race, it's like, oh, I guess it's only second. Like, do you think that's a problem?
Uh, I mean, I don't know, maybe for other people, but to be honest, I look for the strongest competition in races, and that's what gets me fired up for racing. Like, I knew Lionel Sanders, Sam Long were going to do Chattanooga, and that was one of the reasons what made me want to do it, because I wanted to race those guys, over an Ironman distance, and like I look for the best competition, because at the end of the day, if you do a race where no one's there, like who cares? It doesn't matter if you beat no one, does it? Whereas if you're in there and you're in the mix with the top guys and you can beat them, it's going to be amazing, isn't it? And if that gets everyone talking, that's why everyone's talking about Taylor Knibb for the World 70.3 champs, because she went to the Collins Cup, all the top girls were there, and she put them away, didn't she? She got the fastest time. Whereas if she'd have done a Mickey Mouse race, no one would have really cared, would they? So, like for me, that's what you want to do. And at the end of the day, everyone's human, aren't they? We all put our pants on one leg at a time. No one does anything different. We've all got two arms, two legs. Everyone's beatable, and once once you do it once, it gives you the confidence that you can do it again. And that's the problem. Like, yeah, he's been on a winning streak, but at some point that winning streak's going to end. No one wins all time, do they? At some point you start losing. And why can't it be me that does it? Why can't it be someone else? Because it's not like he's going to be winning when he's 60, is he? He's not going to be winning when he's 50. So like, he's 40 now. So how much longer is it going to be? Like everyone's beatable. I mean, you see it in like ITU, for instance, like Vincent Louis, like going into 2020, if the Olympics had been on, he was everyone's pick for the gold medal. People couldn't see how he'd be beaten. Go to 2021, he didn't even get a medal, did he? And then other people have moved on. Alex Yee, Hayden Wilds come on, Christian Blumenfeld absolutely annihilated it. But then next year it could be someone completely different, couldn't it? And like same with like long course, like at the moment he's dominating, but that's not to say he would be next year. And like he hasn't done a full distance race for a long period of time. Like we've seen how well he's been doing over halves, but the Collins Cup was a bit different because like it was 3 people at a time. But how well would it be over a full distance with other people in? I mean, like the head-to-head race with Lionel Sanders was a good time, but it was an artificially made course that was made perfectly for a good time. And also we haven't got any bearings on how quick a time that actually was, because no one's ever raced on that course before, whereas like other courses, we can see people. Like I'd like to have a crack anyway, and I think like he's beatable. Like everyone's beatable. Like no one's unbeatable.
I love it. You touched it. You do. I love it. I love hearing this because, again, it does get a bit boring when you hear people go, "No, I love people go, no, I want to take it to him." Like, and that's one of the things I think we like so much about the Norwegian boys is that they're like, "Yeah, we're going up. Like, we're going to Kona to say hello to Jan Frodeno." Speaking of the Norwegian boys, they've said that Christian came out and said he's going to win the Olympics and then he's going to go and win Kona. What do you think?
Well, he's not done an Ironman yet, has he?
No.
And Kona is a completely different beast, especially in October. I mean, like I can see Christian being up there on the swim, up there on the bike, and then feeling really good at the start of the run, setting a good pace, and then all of a sudden his core temperature just goes through the roof, and then boom, he starts like walking later on, because it catches people out, and you only know it's too late when it is too late, and then you can't do anything about it. He's definitely got the ability to do well. I mean, looking at what he's done the short course, but I mean, like Kona just catches so many people out. I remember when Gomez was there, like the last time he was there, and I saw him coming out of transition. And he came past me like after a few miles, and I thought, oh, he's going quick. Like I think he's going to pay for that. And then like coming out of the energy lab, he was walking back to the Queen K, and this is like Gomez when he was like doing very well at short distance racing, and the poor guy's walking, and you're like, it can get anyone. It can bite you in the ass, Like it's just such a beast because that heat and humidity, Like other races, when you feel it start to come on, you can knock it back and you can kind of get there before it's too late. Whereas Kona, it's like it gets you, and then you're like, "Oh God, like why did I go out so hard? Like I really wish I hadn't." Now. It's happened to me. It happened to me in 2016.
Do you think you'd have some choice words for Christian if you were to run past him on the Queen K and he's in a bit of a state? Do you think you'd have some choice words for him, or would you be like, oh well, mate, like it happens to the best of us? Like, what do you think you'd be like?
Yeah, I'd probably be like, it happens to the best of us, mate. Keep pushing. I'd be like, don't worry, there'll be another 10 in front of you that are walking. That's like, I remember seeing Alistair when we were running down the energy lab, like last time when I was there, and I caught him up, and I said to him, keep going, mate. Like you can still get top 10. Because I think he was probably thinking like, oh God, like what's happening? Because he like wasn't running as quick as what he'd hoped for. And he said, "You reckon?" I said, "Mate, loads of them will be walking on the way back from the energy lab. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep it going. You'll do all right." And he said, "All right." He said, "You can catch Lionel. You look a lot better than him." I said, "Cheers, mate."
Joe, the last thing I'd like to ask you, and this is a question from we opened up, we told the MX guys that you'll come on the show, and we asked them for questions. One of the really good questions we got was from John Muncie, and he said, Joe is probably the most successful self-coached athlete of all time. What are your reasons for not employing a coach, and what do you think the benefits are from going solo versus what he does? What do you think you miss?
Well, they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, don't they? So, like, I've been self-coached for so long now, like, I think I'm probably uncoachable. But I have had a coach before. I had one in 2016 and for a bit in 2017. But I actually went slower when I was coached. So that made me go back because my partner said to me, "Oh, why are you getting a coach for? You've done all right without one." I thought, you know what? I might be able to do better. I'm going to try it. And I tried it and I went slower. And then I started coaching myself again and I got faster again. And I just think that I've been doing it for so long now. And I've got an open mind. I see what a lot of people do, and I see so many different athletes. I'm always traveling around the world, talking to people. I see what kind of things people are doing. And you can learn from them. You learn a lot of the Cons Cup, for instance. And if I could guarantee a coach would make me faster, I'd 100% do it. But it's like there's no guarantees, is there? And a coach is just giving you. That's the thing. Like people think that you got a coach, it's a guarantee to success. But all a coach has given you is their opinion on what they think you should do to be the best athlete you can be. But it's just an opinion, because at the end of the day, sport isn't a science. There's no this will work 100% and you'll achieve X. It's like, I think this will work and you might do better, because they can't 100% say you're guaranteed to do better, because no one can. It's unproven. What works for one person doesn't work for another. And I think I've got a really good feel in my body. For instance, I know when I'm really tired. When I had a coach and they sometimes put in a hard session, you can sometimes feel obliged to do that. Like, oh, I've got this session on the plan. Like, I have to do it. Like, I'm going to feel like I'm cheating myself if I don't. Whereas I think when you're self-coached, you're kind of more how you feel. If I feel really tired one day, I can be like, no, it's not a good idea to do this. I don't have to do it. It's a plan, and I'll do it another day. And fit it in a bit better. I've just got such a good feel with how my body feels and what I'm capable of doing, that I think it makes you a lot more in tune to listening to how your body feels.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us. This hour's flown by. Actually, it's fantastic to talk to you as always. We love getting you on the podcast. If people want to follow you, find out more about what Joe Skipper's doing, where do they need to go?
Probably Instagram. Not Another Average Joe is probably the best one. And I have done a few YouTube videos, but haven't done some for a while. But I'm hopefully going to start getting back onto that. But if you haven't seen any of them, just check out my YouTube channel, Joe Skipper, and there's some really good older videos on there that people might like.
Joe Skipper, thanks for joining us. Talk to you later.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
And we're back. And right after we've had that amazing interview with Joe Skipper, we are now going to chuck in a chat that Chris McCormack had with Vincent Louis. Now, before you guys listen to this part of the podcast, just remember that, or not, don't remember, be told they weren't aware that Jan Frodeno wasn't racing 70.3 was this weekend. So a lot of the conversation I have is around Jan winning it, but it's still a really, really fascinating chat. So after that, we'll be back.
So mate, you're gonna follow the 70.3 and with the team racing in Utah?
Yeah. There's it's I'm looking forward to seeing this guy racing. That's a lot of big names. I mean, we just learned that Lionel is not racing, but the Norwegians, Jan, that's already
the battle.
You need these three guys, and you have everything you need for a great race.
Yeah, and well, for us, it's always been something, for the Bahrain team, something we've dominated. We've had Holly win it with us. Obviously, the great race with Jan and Javier and Alistair back in South Africa, but. Daniela's going for a 6. Do you follow both the men's and women's? Obviously you do.
I follow both. I followed the Collins Cups also.
It was
great racing, different type of racing, but still great. But I guess at the end it's it's most likely Jan and Daniela that wins the race.
Oh, okay, because there's a lot of talk around Daniela being a little wobbly this year. Her Collins Cup race, everyone.
She won in Switzerland last weekend again, no? With like 6 minutes or something.
Yeah. But everyone's talking about Collins Cup with the bad performance. She said she was a bit ill, and so suddenly there's this tick that potentially she may be vulnerable. I don't see it. I'm sort of with you. And
I mean, when you want Hawaii as much as she won it, as many times as she won it, there is no big clue, and you know how to win big races. So.
And what's your thoughts on? Well, you've raced Christian. He's the Olympic champion now, and he's done a few of these 70.3s. Can he win on this course? Have you seen the Utah course? Or?
Yeah, because my good mate Martin, he was maybe racing it, so we were talking about it. But no, I think Christian for sure is going to be top contender. I think he swims a bit better than Gustav, so he's going to be more at the front with the guys like Ben Canute and Jan too, because Jan, people, they don't really see it, but he's going to be at the front after the swim. Yeah. I mean, he's swimming good. I swim the lane next to him in Girona, and I can tell you he's a good swimmer.
He does everything good, Jan. Like he's flawless.
So I think Christian and Jan, and if Gustav make a comeback, it can be interesting. But Gustav will have to work on the bike, I think, to make it back.
And what about you? We're going to see you in the 70.3 racing?
Yeah, I raced Bahrain this year.
Ah, good.
December 5th. I heard Christian was racing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe another Olympic champion. We'll see if Alistair is keen to race, but that would be good to have him around. Hawaii is cancelled, so maybe he's looking for something to race at the end of the year.
And there's talk that Hawaii won't even go ahead in February, they're saying. So that'll open things up and far out. So, okay, give me a call. Of all actually, not just the team members, top 3 in the men, are you going to think in Utah?
Jan.
And how? Okay, Jan, but how? How's he do it?
So Jan, super smart race, swimming with the top guys, just like managing the bike, staying at the front, maybe taking the lead with the last 10Ks, trying to pick up the pace as he did in Hawaii, and just running flawless.
He's never met Christian in...
No, they never raced.
They've never raced.
Even with Gustav.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So he knows what he has to do, and he's calm, experienced. He knows everything. He's not gonna miss any key point, nutrition or whatever. That's the thing. The Norwegians, they're like me. They're 30 years old. They're full of adrenaline and everything. So if you have to sprint, like if you have to make pikes on the bikes, they will do it. But Jan will be much more controlled, I think, and he has a whole team behind him. They think about every single race, every day. So I still pick Jan. It's my safety net, I think. So.
And then Christian gets on the podium.
Yeah, I think Christian gets second. He will have a bit of a down in the run, so Jan will go away with the win, but I think Christian will get second.
Okay.
And third it's a tough call, but I still think Gustav. Gustav, because even this guy, there is other guys, Sam Long and all these guys, but they can lose 4 minutes on the swim.
The depth's not there,
and you're not gonna make it back, huh?
Yeah.
So it's gonna be hard, but I think I'm going for Jan, Christian, Gustav.
And on the women's, we've talked Daniela. There's Holly. There's so much. There's not really like you girls going across, but
Yeah, I think I'll put Holly still for the win because she knows how to race. She's like not on home soil, but she lives in the US, so she knows what to do. She raced St. George already, I think. So yeah, I'll put Holly. I'll put Paola Findlay second.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, good. She raced well in the Collins Cup. She had she was in the heat with Lucy and Katie, so obviously she's gonna lose time on the swim, but she did good. So I'll put Paola. And third.
Is Taylor Nib racing? There was a whisper that she was going to race, and then she's not.
I hope for the other girls she's not racing.
Okay, but, yeah. She's
but
amazing.
if she is, I'll put her first.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. She is a
beast. But I don't know, a third joker, maybe. I don't know if Anne Org is racing, maybe not. But third, I will put maybe Heather Jackson. Yeah, I think she can do good. Yeah, she's tiny, so with the race in Utah, maybe.
Perfect. All right.
What about you?
You've got me. I think Christian. I'm interested to see the Jan and Christian battle. Like Jan's the greatest I've ever seen in my whole life in the sport. He's, as you said, he's he's remarkable. Every single thing is checked. The proof's in the pudding with his results. He's done everything there is, and he just seems to be getting better. Right? Not better, but just not going down the other side of the mountain. And watching Christian emerge through Super League and watching him race you, and he has that vulnerability in the swim, but he just doesn't seem to care. Nothing flusters him, and maybe that's youthful exuberance. I don't know, but I'm interested to see that Norwegian, because they sort of come as a team, they race together, they work together. I do agree. I think Jan will potentially do the 1-2 punch, and they will get served a defeat because he's just, as you said, polished across all three. So I think my men's podium is very similar to you. I may switch Gustav and Christian around. I think the Utah courses suits Gustav.
Yeah.
He is a shittier swimmer, but I'll switch those two around. On the women's side, I'm going with Daniela every day of the week. Yeah. Unless Taylor Nib races, I was ringing Bob Babbitt to find out if she was on the start list, and he's like, they're thinking about it. But yeah, I think Daniela, she's a lot to prove, and I'll take Holly and Paula Findlay. So we're pretty close.
Yeah.
I think Holly's really, really good on this course, and she steps up at 70.3 worlds, and so perfect. And then next year, mate, you.
Yeah. That's the thing.
Yeah, perfect. All right, mate. Good luck today.
Yes, thank
you.
Have a
ripper.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Welcome to the down low on the PTO. Mate, we've got a little bit of meat to put on these bones because last week we mentioned that the Professional Triathletes Organisation has partnered with Herbalife Nutrition to create the Pro-Am Triathlon Series, starting with Herbalife 24 Los Angeles Triathlon. Now, we mentioned it last week, but we didn't have that press release quite in my inbox. It came in about an hour after we'd recorded. So now we can put some meat on those bones. So they're launching this Pro-Am series, the first of which will take place during the iconic Herbalife 24 Los Angeles on the 15th of May, 2022. The Pro-Am series will combine age grouper and professional racing and include a professional race with $100,000 prize purse, as well as a celebrity team relay that will see the world's greatest PTO professionals racing alongside age group teammates in a Pro-Am format that will be fully broadcast to a worldwide audience.
You know that you might not know this, but Matthew McConaughey's actually done a triathlon before.
Yeah, I think he has. Yeah, so's J-Lo with her own changing tent.
I heard this.
LA, I think LA is the celebrity spotting, place, isn't it? So I mean, good place to start it. And I mean, me and you gave them some. Well, we gave them a bit of a please don't use triathlon celebrities. Use actual celebrities, and if they're going to Los Angeles, there is every chance that they are probably going to use some actual celebrities, so keep your eyes on this. In addition to the full rollout of the PTO Pro-Am in 2022, the PTO will support the 2021 Herbalife 24 Los Angeles Triathlon taking place on Sunday, October 24th, with an increase of prize money on that race. So exciting times in the world of the PTO, mate.
I have this image in my head of you've got all these Matthew McConaughey's and J-Lo's and everybody there talking with the pros, and they're like, "Oh, you guys are amazing. What's the prize for this? $40,000. Sorry, what? 40,000? Hang on, you do this whole thing for 40. I pay my assistant $40,000 a week to get my coffee in the mornings before I go to set.
Yeah.
Like,
Can I pay you $40,000 to not have to be here?
You know who they should get is they should get Leslie Jones, who is the woman who did that video during the Olympics. You know, that one that went viral with.
Yeah.
She's like, that would be get Leslie Jones. That would be absolutely fantastic. I hope that's her name. Oh my god! Otherwise, there we go. The woman who did that. Anyway, James Bale, if you enjoy this podcast like I know you do, and you want to get more of this podcast like I know you do, you can by heading to mxendurance.com/podcast, where you can sign up for one of our podcast memberships. We have monthly, quarterly, and annual options available. If you choose one of our annual options, it's as little as $3.40 a month, less than a cup of coffee a month, James Bale. And you get exclusive members benefits, including a members-only podcast we release every month that we record with Chris McCormack. This month, we did not. We recorded it with Tyler Mislocic. People know the Canadian professional triathlete. It was a lot of fun to sit down with Tyler, talk about a whole range of things. But you get that as well as access to our community, partner discounts, a whole suite of benefits. Plus, it supports the podcast, lets us know you enjoy what we do, and it's how we allocate resources. If you want to do that, head to mxendurance.com/podcast. James Bale, if they want to find out other things, what do they need to do?
If you want to find out more about MX Endurance, head to mxendurance.com or search MX Endurance on Facebook or at MX Endurance on Twitter or Instagram. If you want to follow me, I'm at bale.james85 on Instagram, or you can follow Tim at tford14 on Instagram. Jump onto iTunes, give the show a review. It's super easy. You can do it in the podcast app, and it does us a favor. So if you like what we're doing, tell a friend, help us grow the podcast. If you've got any suggestions, guests, or comments, send an email to tim@podcast@mxendurance.com.
What happened there? What was that little stumble? You nearly broke. What happened?
Oh, I just had a little chuckle to myself about reviews. My brain went into. I had one of those moments where I had many, many thoughts in about half a second.
Well, after you shamed me publicly on the podcast this week, I put a lot of effort into making sure that I read it slowly and clearly. So I hope
you did very well.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Well.
I appreciate it. I noticed it because you've got a meeting in like 9 minutes. I noticed you were starting to rush a little bit towards the end. I noticed. I'm sure people listening appreciated it. James Bale, I know I appreciated it. Thank you as always. And until next time, see you later.
Take care.